On this episode of AV Week, we wrap up the year that is 2018. What were the biggest stories? What were the biggest issues? And look ahead to 2019 and some of the biggest challenges and opportunities. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 384, recorded Friday, December 21st, 2018. Here comes 2019.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Christie Digital and by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. This is a different sort of show. It's one we do every year, but it's kind of our year in review and a little bit of a preview as much as we can, being as the fact that the AV industry is constantly changing and rearranging. So with me to discuss all things 2018 and a couple of things 2019, first and foremost, her name is Corey Schaefer, and she works for QSC. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a good holiday. Also with me is Mr. Brock McGinnis from Westbury National. Welcome, sir.
Always pleased to be invited, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And last but not least, the outgoing chair of the CTS steering committee and a wonderful Illinois native. His name is Jeremy Caldera. How are you, sir?
I am excellent. Hello, everyone.
All right, so simple concept, simple formula for today's show. I'll kind of give my 2 cents in as we go. Corey, I'll start with you on this. We had lots of mergers and acquisitions. ISE broke 80,000 for the first time. Infocom had some growth as well as far as the shows go. But from your standpoint, both from QSC or you just being an industry person, what would you say the one or two biggest stories of 2018 have been?
So this is just really me speaking. I think it's the Plantronics acquisition of Polycom. And then shortly after that, Logitech looking to buy Plantronics because
you mean the acquisition that wasn't?
Right. But if you look at the dollar amount, right? So it was the acquisition amount of Plantronics to Polycom for $2 billion, but then shortly later, it was said that Logitech to consider acquiring Plantronics for $2.2 billion. So I mean, what happened there? Which is unfortunate. So, Polycom. I've been in this industry a long time, and Polycom was such a major player, and really Plantronics. I used to think of them, and still often do, for just headsets, right? So, just the smaller companies and accessory companies coming up, the larger companies, coming down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things that a number of people have pointed out, the fact that the value of Polycom, at least in the fictional, again, we have to say it's fictional because nobody really came out and said that, yes, Logitech is looking at this, right? Nobody filed with the SEC and all the legal things that they have to do. But in this world of kind of rumor and speculation, yes, the Logitech did not value Polycom nearly as much as Plantronics did.
The other interesting thing, Logitech is a big supporter of Zoom, right? So I kind of wonder if that played into it. And because I don't know, Brock and Jeremy, what you guys are saying, but I run into Zoom every single day. Every large enterprise customer, and I know I've been talking about it a lot, but I just bump them every single day on projects.
You make that sound like a bad thing.
No, I think, when we talk about trends, they definitely are setting a trend for sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Caldera, from where you sit, whether it's on the multiple boards of AVIXA or at IAS, what were some of the biggest stories of 2018?
Oh, well, it's me leaving CTS, Tim, of course. No, I'm just kidding.
You were forced off, just for the record.
Yeah, I know. I was off by terms.
That's tongue in cheek. He reached the limit of his service time.
No,
he
but
termed out.
Yeah, termed out. Thank you.
I did. I don't know. I was going to agree with with Corey, the Polycom one was the big one that I've seen. I mean, but there's been tons of the smaller, in my opinion, smaller mergers and acquisitions, and from the integration standpoint as well. I mean, we saw a lot of companies buying up other companies, just, whether it's Diversified or some of the other big players, taking bites out of a lot of the little guys around to kind of expand their reach. And, for me, that's big news because it starts, diving more into regional markets where they never really played before, which starts affecting smaller companies like mine. So for me, that's kind of a big deal. Other than that, I'm seeing a lot of, just other technology, stuff, all in one type stuff that the more of that comes out is just kind of what I consider to be big news, because it means there needs to be a value add now to us as integrators, because you can just buy some of this box stuff.
Real quickly, in the merger and acquisition area, Jeremy's in Peoria, Illinois, which is about 2.5 hours north of me. Not a large metropolitan, but you have several significant clients that are not just in Peoria, but around the country and around the world. When Diversified or AVISPL or whatever company that has a history of merging and acquiring other companies, they start moving into your area, what does that do to you and to your strategy then?
Well, for us, it just makes it more difficult from a financial standpoint, right? Because we're used to, and fortunately in some of the regional areas, we're used to getting slightly healthier margins, right? Where some of the big players come in and unfortunately tend to lowball things, right? So now we have we knew this was coming. This has been coming for years, even in the larger markets, right? To where, the commoditization of all the equipment is forcing down margins. And then some of the big guys try to keep their guys busy or something. I don't know what it is, forcing down some of their labor rates. It means that we have to find a new way to stay relevant. And we have to start bringing on, everybody's talked about managed services or that type of offering just to kind of add that value to us as the smaller integrator. But I mean, like I said, the small integrators, hopefully if you're getting on board the right bandwagon there, you'll see a lot of growth, which fortunately we have. And I know some other local guys in town here, we do more regional stuff and even stuff around the country, not as big as like the Diversifieds of the world, obviously, but the little guys in Peoria that aren't doing as much regional stuff and expanding their reach and changing their service offerings, they're seeing a lot more loss in revenue, and we're seeing great growth. And I think it has to come down to, like I said, what they're finding to add value to.
Jeremy, one thing that I thought these large integrators are looking to do when they do these acquisitions and have a footprint kind of everywhere is to be able to say to an end user, we've got offices all over the US, all over the world, et cetera. But what I'm actually seeing as far as boots on the ground for me, and it's micro, but I mostly spend time in New York and the Bay Area with these large global customers. They're still looking local. They're still dealing with a local integrator, and sometimes it'll be a big guy because they have a local office and they've had a relationship, but often it's still that small local integrator.
Yeah, and I agree. And don't get me wrong. I mean, we're the small local integrator, right? And I've got lots of enterprise clients. I have several very large Fortune 100s in our area that we help service. Now, fortunately, those companies are big enough that there's enough to go around for everybody, right? They can support 4 or 5 local integrators as well as deal with a lot of the big guys too, right? And the nice thing is we as a small integrator, they trust us, they know us, they deal with us. We help them do demos and analyze different equipment and all the new things that come in, and they trust our opinion on this, where they don't necessarily trust the opinion of the big guys. So they think they're just trying to be sold, right? Because they know we have a lot more invested in it. At least that's what I've been told, the way they look at us. But that being said, there's a lot of times where I'll even work with some of those larger integrators to help deploy solutions that we're coming up with for them in areas where we can't touch. So
it's interesting that they value your opinion and honestly your relationship with them a little bit more than the folks that they may view as being outside the area, right? And that kind of speaks to the way that you guys have handled yourself and other integrators as well, is the value of the relationship, which is something that Mr. McInnes has been trying to drill into my head for 10 years. So.
Yeah, it's 100% true.
Yeah, the relationship is 100% it. People do business with people. And we've recently, at Westbury here, joined the PSNI Global Alliance as a way of servicing our customers who have locations outside of Canada. But as part of that PSNI relationship, we've started servicing large multinational enterprises for other integrators. And I've gotten to know some of the account managers at other integrators that are dealing with these big multinationals. People do business with people. And the sign on the door, in the end, kind of means nothing. I think that the movement, really, the mergers and acquisitions movement, both at the manufacturers level and at the integrators level, is about scale. Jeremy, you say large companies come into your area and lowball. Well, their cost bases are lower than yours. An AVI SPL may have a significant price advantage over you with a Crestron or a Samsung or another, large integrator.
Well, I don't know.
They're making the same margins. No, they won't tell you that. Your vendors certainly won't tell you that. But
I could tell you though, in my experience, yes, that is true. I'm marking up my stuff lower to be competitive, but there has been 7 jobs in the past 6 months that I have lost to where the labor that they quoted was actually, the entire project was lower than my cost, right? And the labor that they quoted was almost half of what I quoted, and we're seeing a significance in change orders is what it comes down to. And I've had my clients tell me that, and I've had some of my good clients say, Jeremy, look at how much cheaper they are than you. They're offering the exact same thing, and they've shown me the dollar to dollar. The equipment's darn near closer to the same, but it's the labor. So,
and so the other thing that happens is that companies that are using primarily subcontract labor forces begin to mark those subcontractors up as they mark up their product, as opposed to trying to get the 2 times, 2.5 times, 3 times metrics that we do on in-house labor. So there's lots of things that are evolving, and the evolution is about us maturing as an industry. We came from very technical backgrounds, not particularly astute business people, but great technical service providers. And now it's a lot of MBA bean counters that are running the business, and they're going, we're looking for efficiencies here, we're looking for price advantages there, we're going to buy market share in Peoria because it's Peoria, and we're going to make that money up on a global basis. And we're now just facing some of the business pressure, I believe, that is being faced in other industries all the time. Our need is to become more agile, more efficient, and then also think about scale. This is the kind of angst, Jeremy, that drives small integrators like yourselves into the hands of big ones, or motivates you to go, you know what, I got to connect with the guy in the next regional city, and the next regional city, and the next regional city. So the 5 of us together have the scale to be able to take on some of these behemoths. That's the business side of things. Good people, in the end, want to work for good companies.
It's all about people.
And so that's what we do have going for us. Because one of the things that I have noticed from some of the large companies is that talent pool, that gene pool, it gets pretty thin at times.
But Brock, don't you think it's also, we have to change how we do business? Meaning, one thing that I constantly see is, we look at integrators' websites and, manufacturers, all of us, we just don't really know how to market our value prop. And, we all kind of are saying the same thing. It's really hard to show where we're different, and we are a very technical pool here, gene pool. And I personally think the customer is looking for. Yes, relationships are still important, thankfully, but they're looking for ease of it. They're looking for different and things that take away their problems.
Yes, they're also looking for companies like us to communicate with them in the same way and do business with them in the same way as other large enterprise service providers do. So, we kind of need to look and act like Cisco, or you need to look and act like Cisco. I need to look and act like a Cisco VAR, or a Rico, or somebody else that is in their business every day. Those kind of turnaround times that kind of accuracy, that kind of documentation, and price agility.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mr. McInnes, you'll have the last word on for 2018. What was the biggest one or two stories for you?
The mergers and acquisitions thing has stopped being a story for me. When I looked back at the year, the one thing that I recognized that as an industry we had stopped talking about is Microsoft and Google. And if you look back a year, 18 months ago now, it was all about Surface Hub. Mm-hmm. And it was going to take over the world, and it was going to ruin our lives, and it was all about Jamboard, and it was going to take over our lives. And the collaboration mantra that was happening through the industry, and we were terrified that these appliances sold by mega enterprises were going to consume AV. Nobody's buying them a second time. The manufacturers have effectively put those products on the shelf. Nobody's talking about them at any level. And that wave has come and gone.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, why? Because is it the product? Is it, why?
So the product was 90% marketing and 10% delivery. And it was very late, but a lot of integrators and a lot of VARs invested a lot of money. I can give you an awesome deal on a Jamboard if you're interested. The positioning to be able to provide this contract, because they're too hard to use. Collaboration, I think, has evolved over the last 18 months from making somebody stand up at the front of a meeting room like a third grade teacher and draw squiggles on a touch board or operate a PowerPoint directly from a board, to collaborating on individual devices, laptops, tablets, phones, at the table, using software tools in the wireless collaboration world that are readily available and way easier to learn. Corey, you and I have no problem standing up in front of a room and driving a presentation from a board. We're 10%ers. 90% of meeting participants, they want to share from the safety of their seat, protected by the table in front of them, and using a device that they know and use and love and have confidence in. And so the collaboration story has changed, and to me, that's the biggest evolution of 2018 in our industry.
So we're just collaborating differently, right? So we're still collaborating.
Yeah, other than, as you mentioned, pre-show, Zoom. Zoom is the biggest story, from January 1 to December 31, 2018, it has gone from a sometime conversation to an absolutely everyday, every customer, all the time. How do I pull this codec out and replace it with Zoom? What assets can I reuse? How can I make it make video conferencing as easy for all my users as Zoom is? And they are delivering on the promise of video conferencing better than anybody has, from my humble perspective, than anybody has ever done that before.
100% agree. I mean, our company had adopted a different platform, and many times my users are using Zoom. So when I send them an invite, even from another platform, I have customers saying to me, no, we're not using that. I'll send you the invite. So then I went ahead and switched, because I had so many people saying it. And then when I have to revert back to the former platform that most of our company uses, I noticed that I'm irritated about, it's like it might just be one additional click, but it's still irritating. And it's one additional click.
And the picture quality and the sound quality and the ability to share content, and I don't care what platform that was, isn't as good and as easy unless you're using an SX80 and you've got a 2 to 4 meg pipe, and all the stuff automated through a good Crestrunner MX panel. Zoom's pretty darn simple, which of course is what we're using to record here today.
Well, isn't that kind of the point, though, Brock, is the fact that you mentioned SX80, a fine, video conferencing system from Cisco. but it requires a couple of different things. I mean, Jeremy and I will tell you stories later about this job from hell, but it included, part of this job was several SX80s, and they were incredible systems, right? But they're a little on the pricier side, and they're one room systems, and they 2 or 3 or 4 cameras and dual monitors and a nice Crestron. I know what this job Jeremy and I were doing was a nice Crestron touch panel and this, that, and the other. When we talked about you collaborating from your laptop, you can give a laptop or a connection to anybody and send them to a conference room and plug in and either use the camera there or use the one in the room or on the laptop, and in 30 seconds to a minute they could be on a Zoom call. Less costs, a little bit easier to connect with. And I think that's really what Zoom has done, is just simplified the interface and simplified the experience.
Now,
So
to
these-
Cisco's credit,
Yeah.
but to Cisco's credit, their RoomKit systems and the software, like the Cisco conferencing ecosystem, has evolved over the last few years amazingly well. I think that the SX80 is the only codec system, hard codec system they offer. And we don't have any problems if people are in the Cisco ecosystem and are comfortable, paying as much as for a service contract as they would for a Zoom license, in installing that, because that is also a really good user experience now. And with, I think it's called proximity, but with their app, you walk into a room and ping, that system is set up for you automatically. And it's the easy button is what our clients are looking for.
Yeah.
And a company like Zoom or RoomKit has found a way to make the easy button easy. And there's still a place in both of those applications for integrators, because a Zoom system is too complicated for most users to competently integrate themselves. Do you agree, Jeremy?
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one.
I think the common denominator is, and maybe the trend moving forward, that is just ease of use, right? So you said the easy button, Brock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think they're willing to give up. I mean, you can put, image to image, sound to sound, but they'll still gravitate to what's easiest, even if they believe the other solution might be, quote, better quality. It's all about the it needs to be easy to use. And I think that's a really good lesson for all of us to be thinking about.
And if everybody wants to drive a Honda, then the auto parts manufacturer's responsibility is to build the best kind of parts that complement a Honda or are integrated into a Honda. And so you, as a manufacturer of some really good video systems, then you can start to focus on what's my story with Zoom, what's my story with other platforms, because the users do adopt the platforms way before they adopt the hardware. The hardware simply supports the platform, and the platform supports the user. And our industry, of course, used to be the other way around.
Right.
We came up with the magical hardware solutions and trained the user into that evolution.
Right. And Zoom has no interest in being in the hardware business. They just want to be the platform, and they want to be,
Right.
software. And one thing, the ease of Zoom in a kit, where everything is done, they have room size, and they pull out all these, it's literally, you just pull it out there.
17 adapters and a roll of duct tape.
Right. I mean, and so I think that as clients really do adopt to this platform, and they start to really push the envelope of rooms it was intended to be in, that's also where our value comes back in, right?
No question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, Corey, you raised an interesting point, though, and it doesn't matter how good the quality is of the product. It really just does come down to the overall experience and how simple it is to operate, right? And that's true of it is true of every single thing that we do every day of our lives. Perfect case in point, right? This device right here. Worst quality on the face of the earth of just about any service you could have as far as a cell phone goes, and data rates and all this other stuff. But it's so stupid easy to use. This, and we use this more than anything else every day, right? And it's the same point there. If we make our rooms like that, That's the goal.
Well, and we followed it in the residential market, right? I mean, we all used to have these, great sound systems and maybe, a theater and these, all these DVDs and technology. Now we're just streaming and I just read a article about the trend is even most people would prefer to watch something on their mobile device, even over a big screen in their home. Convenience,
I don't know who those people are, and I don't understand them.
Well, I would argue that is also a generational thing because, there are some, weekends where I will catch myself watching football and thank God that the Bears are doing well this year. But my kids are on the couch next to me, and each of them has a device in their hand, and they're watching some show of some sort while I'm watching football. And that is their preference, right? That they're 10 and 12 years old.
No, it's not their preference. It's their place in the world.
But it is their preference, right?
Football on the big screen. If they want to watch what they want, that's the only thing they have. For the standard millennial, there's a crap TV in their mom's basement, so the picture's better on their iPad.
True.
Yeah, true. That's true. My kids, it is preference, and my kids are 7 and 5, right? They get home from school, the first thing they go to is their device. They don't care about the TV in the living room. That TV in the living room is maybe on for 3 hours a week, and it's maybe to watch football. And even then, I'm going downstairs to the bar, right? Like, I'm never using the TV in my house anymore. I just don't have the time to do it. Neither are my kids. They're just using their devices.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Caldera, we'll start with you. We've kind of beaten up on 2018. So what does 2019 hold for us?
I think it's going to come down to exactly what we've just been talking about. And it was interesting. I was working on another piece for a magazine that was talking just about this, right? It's going to come down to, and this is the big buzzword where collaboration was the buzzword a few years ago. It's user experience now, right? It's the idea of, we want to give good quality, right? And we're all going to sell good quality, right, as an integrator, but simplicity is where it's at, right? If we can make things simple and just make it easy and stupid, that's how it's going to work. Just walk in and it just happens. And whatever that takes, I think that the technology is going to evolve from the manufacturers to just, coalesce with that idea, right? I think that's what we're going to see a lot of.
All right. Mr. McGinnis, what will 2019 hold for all of us?
I'm less concerned about technology and acquiring customers and doing good work for customers as I am about continued disruption in the industry. We had a meeting last week or the week before with Ricoh, the multinational document management company. And it is their global objective by fiscal 21 to have audiovisual services as 5% of their global revenue. So I'm not very good at trillions of yen calculations, but that would make Ricoh the largest audiovisual company in the world 2 or 3 years from now. And when companies like that start to look at us and say, hey, we're in those corporations, we're providing them services every day, we have on-site staff, audiovisual actually isn't brain surgery in many cases. There are customized things that they hire companies like ourselves and other real integrators to do, but they can take over the run rate huddle room, 8-person meeting room, 12-person meeting room. Corey, they could be your largest customer in 2 or 3 years based on some of the SKUs that you've put together. And if Ricoh were looking at that, you've got to think that other multinationals that are not 1 or 2 tiers above us, but 12 tiers above us. We were worried about Microsoft and Google. Well, Microsoft and Google don't actually have any direct relationship with their clients. They work through resellers. It's a bunch of software. There's stickiness through contracts, but there's no personal relationship. IBM, Xerox, HP, there's a huge tier of corporate hardware, software, services, and value add providers that have everyday relationships and contractual relationships with their customers, including governments that have third-partied a lot of their stuff. And I look at that group as potentially being significant disruptors to our cozy little club. And when they come in against competition, they just crush us like bugs.
Right.
We as competitors, we're really friendly. If I'm coming into Jeremy's area because, one of his clients or prospects has asked us to quote on something, I'm letting him know I'm there. I'm letting him know why I'm there. I'm not there to, to cut his lawn or eat his lunch or tinkle in his sandbox. And generally, we're pretty collegial and get along great within our industry. We start getting people from outside the company, and it is formulas and numbers, and so there's no wonder that scale and the capital that goes with scale, because a lot of these mergers and acquisitions are not being fueled by by some integrator that had a bunch of extra money sitting in the bank. It's being fueled by third-party private equity investors.
Yeah.
Well, not some of them, all of them, 100% of them. So scale is the only way that some companies are going to be able to compete with the multinationals. And yet,
I agree 100% with Brock, but I also agree with Jeremy. So it is about the user experience, right? But I think we're going to see disruption by companies that aren't even on our radar. And, it could be Dell, et cetera. And a lot of it is driven by the fact that the AV and IT thing has happened. And when the budget's held by people that come from that IT background, they're wanting to buy from people that they've already got agreements with. They're already trusted relationships. Things are going in the IDF. I can tell you, we've been asked about this all year long by large customers.
Yes.
Wanting to buy that way.
Yeah. But as Jeremy said, and we all, I think, agree, it does come back to relationship. The one advantage that we do have over those faceless behemoths, the Godzillas that are coming across the Pacific Ocean, is the fact that we do have face-to-face relationships with our customers, and we support the people within organizations that support the business objectives of the organization. We will be tough to beat out on a services level.
Right. And it is, when we talk user experience, we might mean in room, right? But it's also it's the whole experience. It's about that service contract. It's about how they buy. It's about how things get arrive. It's about how things are deployed, who deploys them, et cetera. And no doubt relationships are important. And we might even see a circle happen, right? Where because the decisions are made by people that we don't have relationships with, we might see it go a certain way, but then come back, because that happens as well, right? So people go try a path, and then they realize it is a path that's not working for them long term. So then they circle back. And we have to write it out.
So at what point or what companies, beside you Brock mentioned HP and Corey did as well, Intel, at what point do we start, not circling the wagon because that sounds almost fatalistic, but at what point do we start looking at some of these companies like competitors as opposed to manufacturers? Because Ricoh has shown at the last 2 Infocoms, if I'm not mistaken. And so if I'm hearing you right, Brock, they're as much a competitor to the people going to Infocom as attendees.
So they've shown at Infocom because they have a couple of products,
Okay.
A collaboration board and a little video conferencing system. But that's not where this 5% of global revenues is coming from. That is AV as a service. That is about taking things that Jeremy and I sell to people for cash, and they're going to sell it to them by the month.
Well, the thing with that too is, here's the difficulty that lies with that, right? This whole AV as a service being a buzzword over the past year, 18 months, right, has been somewhat more difficult to actually see start happening, right? The idea is great. Customers like it. We just can't seem to execute on it as much as it's been talked about, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that has to do with not necessarily the smaller integrators like myself versus like the AVSPLs, the world diversifies and stuff like that, right? We don't have the capital necessarily to do that. So we're reliant on other ways to get financial support to help do that. And I don't think anybody's figured out a really good way to do that yet, right? Those companies, like what Brock is talking about, they've got it down and they know it and they got the money to do it. And that's what's scary. And that's what's going to make that happen a lot faster.
Yeah. All right, Corey, you'll have the last word on this. What else does 2019 hold for us? Make it something pleasant, please.
I think there's always something to be learned here, right? So, I mean, instead of looking at them as competitors, let's look at ways to collaborate with them. Let's look at ways, to learn from them. But I personally think we're going to see more mergers and acquisitions for sure, continuing on too. And Is that pleasant? It depends.
Depends on who you are. It depends on whether you own stock in the company that's being acquired. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little bit in the vein of not pleasantness. You're posting this the first week of January. There are certain things that are outside of our control. All four of us control, outside of our industry's control, and there are some macroeconomic things happening, both at the U.S. level as well as other country level. It's going to impact us, and it's going to impact us probably within the first quarter, if not the second quarter. Number one, and this is not a political statement; it's just a simple fact: the tariff war between China and the U.S. is going to start hitting the AV industry. It's going to start hitting us. Already has, right?
Yep.
In January, you're going to see a number of manufacturers releasing, price increases. If you haven't already seen that, there are certain components that go into every single device that you guys put into racks and you put into rooms. Every single. The only places they're made is China, right? There's 3 or 4 factories in China that these components are made there. They're getting tax coming into the U.S. now. And regardless of where that final box is put together and manufactured, and whether it's a stamp says U.S. or Mexico or Canada or wherever, there are components in there that are made in China, and the price of that component, that final product, is going to go up because of this kind of trickle down. And I really hate using that term, but trickle down effect from the tariff through. So.
Nobody ever said, Tim, that making America great again was going to be inexpensive, right? This is an economic process of bringing. Go
ahead.
Misunderstand my support for Mr. Trump, but everybody's. It's not just our industry. Everybody is going to be more expensive. It's going to cost more to buy a T-shirt at Walmart. It's going to cost more to buy a device from Crestron. It is going to, it's across the board. And we have this other really weird thing going on in our economy where you can't get good people, but wages aren't going up. First time in economic history that there's an inversion of this type where unemployment rates are just infinitesimal. And yet the only time people are getting wage increases is when they change jobs and change because everybody's holding the line on expenses, and we're also seeing record profits. So there's a bunch of stuff. I'm not sure that those price increases are in the end going to impact us all that badly. It's going to help all of us meet our revenue targets because the price of everything's going up. And so if we sell the same.
Well, the fact is the prices have already gone up. And the reason prices have gone up by many manufacturers, including with QSE, is that, for months, we just constantly, we're waiting and hearing, well, we're in the integration business, right? So, I mean, at some point we went as far as we could to absorb the 10%, right? And then we just have to make a change. But when we have this back and forth and potentially it's 30 days, 60 days, even 90 days, we're in the integration business. We can't just be changing prices, every 30 days because people have to plan and budget, et cetera. So, that's
actually, Brock, that's why I think it's going to impact us, is because the fluctuation of the prices, not saying QSC, but just in general manufacturers, and their prices going up. Jeremy or you could bid on a job that's not going to see the light of day for a year. You're going to win the job, but then your costs are going to go up 15, 20, 25%.
That is correct.
And to the point of unemployment, your labor costs are going to go up as well. because
Yeah.
I mean, we're just going to have to find a way to pay more to do the jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm fairly more optimistic about this in that I think that this whole tariff cost increase thing is eventually going to work itself out eventually. I hope.
2020.
I'm going to be curious, and this is no offense to you, no offense to you, Corey, or manufacturing. I'm the believer that we will not see any prices go back down. Right, that it's the excuse to raise them, and now then that goes away, and from there, I have a sneaking suspicion. Now there are some manufacturers where it will, because and I won't name some, but I've gotten price increases of just overall product, and they say due to tariffs and also the stuff, our prices are going up, whatever, 10, 15, 20%. Okay, but I've got other manufacturers like my LED wall manufacturers who are just saying our prices are staying the same, but we're line iteming tariff cost right there. Right.
Wow.
And it's on my quote, tariff cost. The last quote I got was yesterday, tariff cost, $8,753. Right. Added on to the cost of my video wall quote. Right now, tariff goes away, that line goes away, my pricing stays the same. Right. But I'm kind of taking it a step further, and I'm actually putting that for someone who's just getting an LED wall quote from me, I'm putting that same line item on there.
Sure.
Just to kind of show it. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I can't really do that when it comes to selling, speakers or something where it's just been increased.
Well, on that same wall could cost you $32,000 to ship if you're buying it FOB factory.
Right.
Right. It's and the client needs to understand that as well, is that it might be $305,000 worth of video wall, but it's $32,000 worth of freight.
Right.
And that's not air freight. That's the 16-week freight.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is, though. It's we're seeing those cost increases, but some are doing it just overall increases, and I'm hoping they go back down, and some are just line iteming it out. So. Yeah,
I like the line item part. So.
Yeah.
And Brock actually stole my other one for the year, and that is the tight labor market, both here in the U.S. and abroad. There are fewer people looking for jobs. So, but unfortunately, Brock is right about the fact that the cost of, or the money you can make is also tight as well. So, all right, guys, that kicks us off for this first episode of 2019. Thank you all so much, Miss Corey Schaefer. How do people get a hold of you or QSC?
You can find me at Corey.Schaefer at QSC, QSC.com, on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. as Corey Schaefer.
All right, very good. Mr. Caldera, since nobody can find you at the CTS steering committee anymore, where do they find you or IAS?
IAStechnology.net, or on my Twitter is at Jeremy_Caldera.
Very good. And Mr. McGinnis, thank you so much, sir, as always. How do people find you or Westbury?
I'm Brock.M at Westbury.com and at Brock McGinnis on Twitter. And I did want to end on a positive note, though. This is still a wonderful time to be in the AV business. We're helping people do their jobs better and faster and easier. And I continue to be proud of all of us and the services that we provide, and the ethical nature in which we provide them, and the enthusiasm we all continue to have about the value of our technology. It's great. And Tim, for 2019, please keep up the great work at AVNation. Thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Great.
For us here, don't follow me because at this point I'm really just pretty just wearing Bears gear 24/7 until they get out of the playoffs. Go by the website if you would, please, AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. If you're interested in the residential market, my buddy Matt Scott has a weekly program that covers that as well. It's called AVWeek, and actually he has a version of this year-end review as well. Also, while you're there, check out our supporters section. These are the folks who support us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and ResiWeek in just about a month's time. Integrated Systems Europe, the world's largest audiovisual trade show. So that'll be coming to you from Amsterdam at the Rai Theater for 2 more years. And then in 2 years, we all get to go to Barcelona, which is both good and bad. It's an interesting trek from St. Louis to Barcelona. Just put it that way. I've done it once, and it took about 3 days. Not really 3 days, but it took a while. Also, while you're there, we have a new webinar coming up about AV network security, so you can check that out and register for that as well. That happens on the 16th of January if you're interested in that sort of thing. So all that and more at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.